October 23, 1942, 2:17 hours. Somewhere west of El Alamein, a cold wind rolls across the desert, sharp, almost metallic. It hisses between the shredded remnants of barbed wire and kicks dust against the boots of a lone German signals operator crouched beneath a camouflage net. His headphones crackle. Faint British transmission bleeds through the static. He freezes. It's not chatter. It's not routine. This sounds like something big. A few feet away, the entire desert lies silent black dunes, under a moon so thin it looks carved into the sky. You can almost feel the tension sitting in the air, like the moment before lightning strikes. The operator scribbles furiously, decoding, piecing fragments together. British vehicle counts, artillery groupings, supply chain routes, references to Monty, mentions of phase lines plural. His pulse quickens. This isn't a raid, this is preparation. He pushes himself up, legs trembling from hours in the dirt, and races toward a cluster of vehicles blacked out under tarps. At the center stands the man every Allied soldier knows by name, Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox. The commander who had spent 2 years outmaneuvering larger armies with a mix of instinct, daring, and pure audacity. Rommel looks up from his map table just as the operator arrives, breathless, holding the decoded sheets like a fuse pulled from a bomb. Rommel scans the pages. The desert wind seems to stop. British forces, reinforcements, armor, artillery, aviation, supply depth. And behind them, more. He sets the papers down slowly, then exhales through clenched teeth. The numbers are wrong. They have to be wrong. Rommel pulls out his field binoculars and stares east, toward a horizon swallowed by darkness. Yet even in the dead of night, faint tremors rumble through the sand. Subtle, almost unnoticeable, but real, like a sleeping giant rolling in its bed. Montgomery was moving. And he wasn't moving with punches, he was moving with a hammer. A staff officer approaches quietly. Herr Field Marshal, is the intelligence credible? Rommel doesn't answer immediately. His eyes stay fixed on the distance, as if trying to spot the coming storm before it breaks. When he finally speaks, his voice is low, almost resigned. They're preparing an offensive, he says. A massive one. He had fought the British again and again, beaten them back across Libya, taken Tobruk in a lightning strike, shattered Commonwealth pride. But this was different. This was systematic, planned, overwhelming. And then, a detail catches his specific phrase, buried in the intercepted report. Final Assembly, 8th Army. Rommel mutters it under his breath. 8th Army. Not battered, not recovering, but rebuilt, completely. And equipped. New tanks, new guns, new command. A shadow crosses his face that none of his officers have seen before. The Desert Fox, master of surprise, was no longer the hunter. He was being hunted. He grips the edge of the table, knuckles whitening. Wake the commanders, he orders. All of them. I want readiness reports in 20 minutes. But even as he speaks, a distant rhythmic rumble begins pulsing over the horizon. Not thunder, not vehicles. Artillery being moved into position, dozens of guns. Maybe hundreds. And they're not hiding it anymore. If the British were preparing for an attack, he still had time barely to reposition, reorganize, brace. But then the ground trembles again, stronger this time. He looks up. A faint orange glow flickers along the ridge, far to the east like dawn arriving too early. But it isn't dawn. Because in less than 2 hours, Operation Lightfoot will open with the largest British artillery barrage of the entire North African campaign. A bombardment so intense that the first shells will land before the order to fire even finishes, echoing down the gun line. And Rommel, staring into that unnatural glow, realizes something he has never admitted to himself before. He might be about to lose the desert. 2:58 hours, east of El Alamein. Rommel stands rigid beside his command car, coat whipping in the wind as a sandstorm of artillery dust begins to rise. Then a single flash, a second, a third, and suddenly the desert ignites. Thousands of British guns open up at once, unleashing a wall of thunder so violent it shakes grit from the underside of trucks and punches the air out of men's lungs. You can almost feel it, like the sky cracking open above you. Rommel doesn't flinch. He's seen bombardments before, but not like this. Not a curtain of fire stretching from the Mediterranean to the Qattara Depression. Not a barrage that makes the entire earth vibrate like a struck drum. Communications officer shouts over the roar. "They're targeting our minefields, sir." Rommel nods grimly. "We want lanes, armor lanes." Montgomery wasn't hiding his plan. He was announcing it in fire. A runner sprints toward the field marshal, stumbling as the ground lurches under another barrage. "Panzer Grenadier Regiment reports heavy casualties already," he yells. "We can't raise several outposts, they're just gone." Rommel's jaw tightens. The attack came earlier than he expected, harder than he imagined, and with a precision that felt American. These were not the same British forces he toyed with across Libya. He tries to listen through the chaos, through the overlapping explosions, the crack of bursting shells, the hiss of shrapnel carving through sand. Something changes in the tone of the barrage. A new sound joins the thunder. A deep, grinding rumble. Engines. Dozens. No hundreds. Sherman tanks, massed and ready, surging forward behind the artillery. Rommel's eyes narrow. The Desert Fox had always relied on daring, maneuver, and split-second strikes. His Afrika Korps had fought like a knife, fast, sharp, precise. But knives don't win against sledgehammers, and that's exactly what Montgomery had built. One of Rommel's staff officers points toward the eastern ridge, voice shaking. "Herr Field Marshal."
"Look."
"Yeah." The silhouettes appear through the falling dust columns of Allied armor crawling forward in perfect formation. You can almost see the heat shimmering off their hulls as they advance like an iron tide. Rommel says nothing. But inside, a realization, quiet, heavy, settles like stone. He is outnumbered, outgunned, and worse, outsupplied. Fuel, the lifeblood of the Afrika Korps, was nearly gone. German reinforcements, weeks away. Italian divisions, was already breaking under the shelling. He turns to the officer beside him. "Get me Panzerarmee Afrika," he orders. But the radio sputters, choked by interference from the barrage. Signals cut in and out screams, static reports that make no sense. Rommel leans in, straining to catch a voice through the chaos. Sherman's pushing. Left flank collapsing artillery. Everywhere the line goes dead. A fresh barrage slams into the desert, throwing a wave of heat and sand across Rommel's position. Officers duck. Maps scatter. A truck rocks on its suspension like a ship in a storm. Rommel stays on his feet. He picks up a fallen map, smooths it with one hand, and traces the Allied attack routes with his finger. He sees the trap closing. The British weren't just attacking, they were isolating, splitting, smothering. This was not a battle the Afrika Korps could win by daring. This was raw, industrial might. Contest of factories, fuel depots, supply ships. A contest Germany could not win in Africa. Another blast lights the horizon, white hot. The ground under Rommel trembles again, long, deep, like a wounded animal groaning. He finally speaks, voice quiet. "Montgomery," he's learned. His staff exchange uneasy glances. Rommel was admitting without saying it directly that the British commander he once dismissed as predictable and cautious had grown into something formidable, something dangerous. Another officer approaches, dust caked across his goggles. "Herr Feldmarschall, the men are asking for your orders." Rommel looks east one more time. The dawn is beginning to rise, its first pale light mixing with the firestorm. The desert, usually so empty, is alive with motion flashes, guns, armor, smoke trails. It feels like the beginning of something irreversible. Rommel turns sharply. "Prepare defensive fallback positions," he says. "Pray we can hold them until nightfall." But even as he speaks, a massive explosion erupts, so close that the command tent collapses in a burst of dust. Rommel shields his eyes, because something is rumbling toward them, something bigger than tanks, something that makes the very sand crawl. And when Rommel sees what it is, his expression hardens. The British aren't just attacking, they're bringing the full weight of the empire with them. Northern sector, Kidney Ridge. Smoke rolls across the dunes like storm clouds dragged down to earth. Sun rises, but its light never reaches the sand, choked out by the burning haze of cordite, diesel, and pulverized earth. Rommel races along the front in his command car, dust whipping his face, goggles rattling with every blast. Around him, The Afrika Korps's once razor-sharp blade looks battered, bent, and exhausted. A mortar shell detonates near a Panzer III, flipping it onto its side. The hull spits flame. Crewman crawls out, uniform scorched, coughing black smoke. He tries to stand, then collapses again. Rommel orders the driver to halt. He jumps out. "Get him to a medic," he shouts. Two grenadiers lift the man by the arms, dragging him toward a foxhole-turned-aid post. Rommel looks around, scanning the ridge, searching for any sign of stabilization. But all he sees is collapse. The British barrage hasn't stopped. It hasn't even slowed. It pulses forward in massive rolling waves, each one smashing German positions before tanks punch through like metal fists. Shermans advance in tight formations, firing on the move. Behind them, British infantry surge forward, ducking through trenches, clearing outposts one by one. A junior officer sprints toward Rommel, breathless. They've broken through at Mighty Area Ridge. Rommel clenches his jaw. He signals the driver. "HQ now, 6:40 hours. Afrika Korps forward HQ." The atmosphere inside the tent is suffocating. Maps are torn, littered with scribbled arrows and plots that no longer match reality. Officers talk over one another, voices cracking with urgency. Rommel enters, everything stops. Here Field Marshal, his chief of staff, begins. "We've lost contact with the 164th Light Division. Italian units on the southern flank are withdrawing without orders." "Where are the reserves?" Rommel asks. "Gone," the officer replies. "They're already in the line." "All of them," Rommel says nothing. He doesn't need to. The truth hangs heavy. There are no second chances today. God. He steps toward the radio operator. "Get me General von Thoma." Static. A faint voice. Then clearer. Counterattacking British fire to heavy-losing tanks. Rommel seizes the handset. "Wilhelm. Fall back. Preserve your armor." But the radio erupts into a shriek of interference as artillery slams nearby. The operator ducks under the table. A staff captain rushes in from outside. "Sir, British armor approaching within 700 meters. Rommel's head snaps toward the entrance. 700 meters. That means the line hasn't bent, it's broken. He steps outside. Through the smoke, huge shapes loom, Shermans and Grants grinding over dunes, smashing through wrecked panzer positions. Their silhouettes glow orange from the heat of their own guns. German anti-tank crews scramble to reposition, hauling back 38 cannons by hand, boots slipping in churned-up sand. Machine gun teams fire bursts that spark harmlessly against advancing armor. Sergeant yells orders until a shell lands beside him, swallowing him in a column of sand. Rommel watches all of it with the controlled calm of a man who has been here before, who has reversed impossible odds more than once, but not like this. The enemy has overwhelming supplies. Not when his own men fight hungry, thirsty, and with barely any fuel left to maneuver. He turns to his aide. "Signal all units. Begin phased withdrawal to Fuka. Orderly retreat. No chaos." The aide hesitates. Rommel finishes for him, a sign the Desert Fox is out of tricks. He looks back toward the burning horizon, watching Montgomery's forces advance in a methodical, crushing tide. "Let them think it," Rommel says. Then softer. "For now." But as he walks back toward the HQ, he halts. Far across the battlefield, a new sound resides, a deep, grinding pulse, heavier than tank engines. Artillery? No, too steady. He lifts his binoculars, and what he sees makes even Rommel's face tighten. Doesn't snow. Scores of fresh British tank columns emerging from behind the ridges. More than he had been warned about. More than his intelligence had estimated. His mind races. If these were the forces Montgomery held in reserve, then the battle is not just going badly, it's already lost. But Rommel isn't thinking about defeat. He's thinking about how to save what remains of his army before the desert becomes their grave. Because something worse is coming, something he had not predicted. Something that will shatter the last illusion of German control in Africa. Deep inside the Afrika Korps fallback zone near Tel El Akakia, heat ripples dance across the sand, blurring the horizon into a molten haze. The air tastes of smoke, gasoline, and defeat. Rommel steps out of his vehicle, boots sinking into the soft dunes as the afternoon sun scorches the desert like an open furnace. He wipes grit from his face and lifts his binoculars again. And there, far across the battlefield, he sees it. A sight that turns the stomach, of even the Desert Fox, a second wave of Allied armor, bigger than the first. Moving in perfect synchronization, rows of Shermans, columns of Crusaders, self-propelled guns rolling behind them like thunder on wheels. But it's not the machines that stop Rommel cold, it's the supply trucks behind them, dozens, maybe hundreds. Fuel, ammunition, spare parts, even field kitchens. A full, unstoppable war machine fed by industry, protected by numbers impossible to starve. His aide-de-camp, Captain Aldinger, stands beside him, silent. Finally, he speaks. Herr Field Marshal. This is only one sector. Rommel lowers his binoculars slowly. He doesn't need to see the rest. For the first time in the war, the Desert Fox feels the unambiguous weight of inevitability. Not a tactical setback, not a temporary disadvantage. A strategic catastrophe, and the British had outproduced him, outmanned him, outgunned him. And now outmaneuvered him with the most powerful weapon of all unbroken supply lines. He exhales, long and steady, as if trying to release the realization through breath alone. This, he murmurs, is what we could never match. Captain Aldinger looks at him uneasy. Sir? Rommel turns. Voice quiet but razor sharp. Factories won this battle before the first shell was ever fired. A staff car screeches to a stop beside them. Communications officer jumps out, dust cloud chasing him. Field Marshal. Ultra intercepts the British, know our fallback routes. They're targeting choke points. Rommel freezes. He'd known the British had improved intelligence. But this level of precision, impossible. Unless someone was reading his mail. He turns sharply. How long have they known? The officer shakes his head. We don't know, sir, but every move we make, they're there first. Rommel's mind races back over weeks' ambushes. Intercepted supply convoys, perfectly timed British counterattacks. Pieces fall into place in a brutal, undeniable pattern. The British weren't just lucky, they weren't guessing. They knew. They've outfoxed us, Rommel whispers. He had been the hunter of North Africa. Now he realizes he has been hunted for far longer than he suspected. A thunderous explosion erupts on the ridge behind him, British aircraft swooping in low, bomb racks emptying onto withdrawing German positions. Italian infantry scatter, diving into trenches as sand geysers erupt around them. A radio crackles on a nearby crate. Panzer regiment down to 20 operational tanks. Enemy advancing on all axes requesting immediate orders. Rommel grabs the handset. This is Rommel, listen carefully. Withdraw to Fuka. Maintain cohesion. No panic. Save your armor. Save your men. A hesitant reply comes through. Herr Field Marshal. Is this a full retreat? Rommel's eyes narrow as another British shell slams into the dunes. This, he says, is preservation. Africa is lost if we stay. He hands the radio back and steps away from the tent, walking up a slight rise overlooking the wreckage of the battlefield. In the distance, German and Italian soldiers retreat in long, exhausted lines, some limping, others wounded. Many looking back over their shoulders as if waiting to be swallowed by the desert. And on the horizon, like the edge of an approaching storm, Montgomery's forces surge forward in a relentless, disciplined wall. Rommel watches for a long time. He whispers to himself, barely audible over the wind. A reconnaissance plane, because he already knows. The Desert Fox has been cornered, and the enemy is closing in, but the final blow, the one that shatters everything, has not yet arrived. And when it does, it will not come from a tank, or even the desert itself. 1847 hours. Western Desert. Rommel's makeshift command post near Fuka. The sun sinks low. Bleeding red across the sky, its dying light reflecting off wrecked panzers, burning trucks, and the long, broken lines of retreating soldiers. Shadows stretch across the desert like grasping fingers, reaching for an army that's slipping away. Rommel stands alone on a dune behind the HQ, coat flapping, binoculars hanging at his chest. Looks older than he did that morning, years older. But the desert has a way of doing that to commanders, especially on days like this. Behind him, an Italian colonel shouts orders at a group of exhausted infantrymen. Engines cough, transmissions grind, wounded men cry out for water. A once proud army looks like a caravan of ghosts. Then a distant rumble, not artillery, something heavier. Rommel turns. In the far distance, waves of headlights flicker in thin lines. like strands of glowing thread stretching across the desert night. British vehicles, dozens, maybe hundreds, advancing at steady speed. The chase has begun. Messenger races up the dune toward him, boots slipping in the sand. Hair Field Marshal. British armored cars sighted less than 15 kilometers east. They're trying to cut the coastal road. Rommel lowers his head. Montgomery isn't just pushing him back. It's trying to trap him, crush the retreat, seal the escape, end the Afrika Korps in a single, decisive blow. Rommel walks toward the command tent. Steps steady, movements controlled. Officers crowd inside, faces streaked with sweat and dust, eyes wide with the dreadful anticipation of encirclement. General Bayerlein points to the map. If they reach the coast road before our rear columns clear this sector, we'll be pinned against the sea. Another officer adds, voice trembling, fuel is nearly gone. Some units report they can't move their panzers more than a few kilometers. Rommel studies the map in silence. He doesn't blink, doesn't flinch. Then he speaks, calm, sharp. Finally, burn the heavy equipment, we cannot move. The tent goes silent. A captain's jaw drops. But Sir our artillery, our tanks. Rommel cuts him off. They'll only slow us down. Set charges. Destroy everything we can't save. The words hang in the air like a death sentence. Outside the tent, explosions bloom across the retreat line. German crews blowing up their own guns, their own tanks, their own supply depots. Flames roar into the night sky, lighting up the desert in eerie orange. A Panzer IV erupts in a cannon blast of fire. Moments later, a battery of 88mm guns goes up, their destruction echoing like the funeral bells of the Afrika Korps. Rommel steps outside and watches. It feels wrong. It feels like betrayal. But he knows the truth. Better to destroy the weapons than let the British use them against his own men. A staff car pulls up beside him. Beside a sealed envelope. Berlin. High Command. Rommel tears it open. A single-page order. Stand fast, hold your ground, no retreat. He closes his eyes. Hitler's fantasy. Detached from reality. Blind to the desert. Blind to the enemy. Blind to the cost. Rommel crushes the paper in his fist. He turns to Aldinger and says the words no German marshal was supposed to say. I will not sacrifice this army for Hitler's pride. Aldinger swallows hard. Then, sir? Rommel looks toward the darkening horizon, where the British advance glimmers like a line of steel stars. We retreat to save what remains. Tonight, and every night until we reach safety, another explosion punches the sky. Italian artillery going up in flames. Screams echo across the dunes as soldiers scatter. British searchlights begin sweeping the desert from the east. Rommel watches the beams cut across the night, hunting shapes in the darkness. He grips his binoculars tighter. The desert fox understands what's happening. He is no longer the predator. He is the prey. But even prey can escape the jaws of a stronger hunter if it moves fast enough. A final radio transmission crackles through. Enemy columns accelerating, pincer movement confirmed. Rommel climbs into his vehicle. Signal all units, he commands. Full retreat. Keep cohesion. Move under cover of darkness. Avoid the main road. And tell the men. He pauses. The engine hums. The night vibrates with distant British armor. Tell the men the Desert Fox is not finished yet. The car surges forward into the dark toward survival, not victory. Behind him, the Afrika Korps burns. Ahead, the long, grueling march out of Egypt begins. Somewhere behind that curtain of smoke and flame, the Battle of El Alamein seals its truth. The Desert Fox has been outfoxed, and the tide of war has turned.